International Accelerator Laboratory. I'm Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, and I have been so honored to be able to welcome Secretary Jennifer Granholm, our Secretary of Energy, here to Northern Illinois, to the 14th Congressional District, and show off this gem that we have of discovery and innovation in Fermilab. In our tour, we met some of the most talented scientists and innovators across the world, not even just here in the United States, and heard about the level of discovery and international collaboration that Fermilab has become known for. We have seen the cutting-edge work of high-energy physics being applied here at Fermilab between the PIP-2 accelerator, the DUNE. We've been learning all about the exciting collaboration we have with our partners in South Dakota, in northern Minnesota, and in Canada. In addition to leading the world in neutrino science, Fermilab has also reached over 100,000 students every year through its STEM education programs. And we've been so delighted to hear about its workforce development plans as Fermilab continues to cultivate a diverse workforce, focusing on increasing its representation of people of color, of women scientists. We've seen so many dynamically smart, brilliant women project managers across this tour today. And through these efforts, we're really ensuring that our country, the United States of America, remains a leader in science, innovation, and discovery and research for generations to come. And this is why I have been such an outspoken advocate of robust annual appropriations and funding for Fermilab to receive year after year, so that Fermilab and our other national laboratories continue to have the level of federal investment that they need to solve some of our most pressing issues facing our country, whether it's climate change, the impact of lifetime chemicals like PFAS, and understanding the basic questions of our humanity, questions about matter and dark matter and these neutrinos and all the other problems that they're solving. So really excited to be able to welcome one of our great senators, Senator Dick Durbin, who would like to offer some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Welcome, Secretary Granholm. It's an honor to have you here at Fermilab, and the governor and the delegation are all happy to show off Fermi. We're so proud. The year was 1967. The greatest enemy of the United States of America we knew had the bomb, but in 1957 they did something that scared the living hell out of us. They launched the first satellite into space. Soviet Union launched Sputnik in 1957. It was the size of a basketball. As it circled the Earth, we were shivering to think what was next coming out of the Soviet Union. What was next, frankly, was historic. Congress decided to do something positive in that existential moment. We created a program which still lives on today and doesn't really get credited for the Sputnik moment as its genesis. It was called the National Defense Education Act. The National Defense Education Act was the first effort by the federal government of the United States to loan money to students to go to college. It's today's student loan program. I happened to be in the original NDEA program when I went to college and law school. We then saw the most dramatic increase in enrollment in colleges and universities in the history of the United States, maybe of the world. And we realized that that was what we needed to do. We needed to put the men and women of America to work with securing college educations and preparing to fight this battle that we had with the Soviet Union in terms of the future of space and other things. Well, a lot of things were generated as a result of that educational effort and the fear of the United States about the Soviet Union after Sputnik. That little basketball satellite that was circling the Earth was sending out a radio beep every few seconds. Some people in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Baltimore said, you know, I think we have a way of determining exactly where that satellite is circling the Earth and how fast it's going by something called the Doppler effect. Now, I won't explain that to you because I'm a liberal arts major and I didn't take that course. But the net result of it was a challenge to those scientists. Well, if you can figure out where that satellite is and how fast it's going, can you then extrapolate information about where you are taking that information? They set out to work and they achieved it. And the net result of it is something we carry around, at least partially, in our pockets every day, a GPS that is really based on that knowledge that came out of that situation, that existential moment. America is at another existential moment. Governor Pritzker joined us and several of the members of the delegation in Scotland just a few weeks ago to talk about climate change and global warming and what we as a globe, as a world, will do in response to it. We came up with some good ideas, but there isn't a single person who's complacent in believing that we have this under control by any means. We need to dedicate political effort, but we also need to dedicate scientific effort. We need another Sputnik moment when we talk about climate change and global warming. And we can see at Fermi what happens. I'm delighted to see so many Italians here. I think it's a great thing. Yes, and I want to tell you, it's time for this delegation to go visit Italy and figure out where these scientific ideas are coming from. But seriously, it's an international effort, as it should be, in tackling this climate change challenge. The first step we can take in the United States might happen still this month, and that's President Biden's Build Back Better plan, which is going to invest more money into research, more money into Pell Grants, more money into really building the next generation of scientists and thinkers to deal with climate change and global warming. There's so many things in this bill. It can be transformational, not just for the United States, but for the world. And when that happens, I am confident that Fermilab and the great men and women who work here will be part of that solution. It's now my honor to bring to the microphone the governor of the state of Illinois. As I mentioned, he was in Scotland at the conference, and he was making it clear that the United States is going to be a player as we deal with the challenges of the future. Governor Pritzker.
Thank you very much, Senator. Thank you for your leadership in Washington, D.C. on behalf of all of us. I also want to acknowledge the amazing work of our Illinois delegation in Congress. You've met one of our stars, of course, Lauren Underwood. We also have with us Bobby Rush and Sean Casten and Bill Foster. Have I missed anybody? So I just want to make sure that you know that we really have a terrific delegation working on our behalf in Washington to make these tremendous changes, positive changes for Illinois and for the entire country. To the president of the University of Chicago, Paul Alivisatos, who's with us, I'm beginning to lose track of the number of times that you and I have been together either working on or celebrating University of Chicago's accomplishments. I want to thank you very much for everything that you're doing for our state. And to Director Nigel Lockyer and to the entire Fermilab team, thank you for your groundbreaking research, truly, and for Fermilab's positive economic impact on our state. And of course, our guest of honor, my friend, the U.S. Department of Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. Secretary, I know that you've spent the last 2 days witnessing how Illinois is taking the lead in the clean energy sector. Not just because of our landmark Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, but also on the ground with solar projects that you visited in Kankakee and a nuclear plant in Braidwood and an energy farm in Urbana-Champaign, and of course here at Fermilab, which is on the forefront of the science of energy. And as we just saw as we were touring, what's being done to innovate and advance this sector is truly cutting edge. Just terrific that Fermilab is at the forefront of development, and I'm a particular fan of the work that's being done in quantum computing, but a forefront of so many different sectors. And right here in Illinois, it just gives me great pride to have Fermi here and to work with all of you. Never in human history has the world faced a more urgent climate emergency than the one we face today. It may be the most urgent emergency that we have ever faced. When I became governor, Illinois was behind in addressing the climate crisis. Our dependence on coal, which makes up about a third of our energy production, makes the transition a challenge. But that didn't stop us. And I'm very proud to say that because of the work that we did with the General Assembly here in Illinois, today our state is a leader fighting climate change. With the passage of our clean energy legislation, we're the only state in the Midwest forgive me, former governor of Michigan, the only state in the Midwest to commit to 100% carbon-free electricity by 2045. That is a big deal. We're open for business in Illinois with renewable energy companies, doubling our investments in renewable energy and of course, providing long-term stable financing in that arena. We're open for business with electric vehicle producers, with battery manufacturers, charging companies, providing incentives to build facilities and create jobs across the state of Illinois, like Rivian and like Lion Electric already are doing. We're supporting the nation's largest clean energy nuclear fleet at the lowest cost to the ratepayer, and we're protecting ratepayers by eliminating pricing schemes that hurt our most vulnerable. Customer deposits, late fees, and online payments have been done away with. Importantly, the energy future that we're shaping requires inclusivity of Illinoisans. That's something that Fermi knows very well and believes in. We need to make sure that those who've been left out of owning or working in the energy industry are no longer left out. And I'm talking about our groundbreaking returning residents program, providing training to those currently incarcerated so that they can get careers in the clean energy sector that we're building up here. We have a new Clean Jobs Workforce Network Hub program to ensure black and brown people have sustained support to enter the clean energy sector, and a full range of financial and operational assistance for communities transitioning from dirty to clean energy. That's environmental justice. In short, what Illinois is poised to do in the energy sector was already groundbreaking. But add the Biden-Harris Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act into the mix, and, well, the potential for innovation reaches new heights. And then add to that the promise of the Build Back Better plan, that when it comes to the options and the opportunities that shape our daily lives, Americans deserve far more than they've gotten, and it is time to pass the Build Back Better plan. It's a promise, and here in the largest state in the heart of the Midwest, there is one state that is ready on day one, you might say shovel ready, for the Build Back Better plan, and that's the state of Illinois. So I want to thank you, and with that, it is my truly a great honor to introduce a great former fellow Midwestern governor, a real leader and a friend, our Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm.
Thank you so much, Governor Pritzker, for joining us today, and also for the warm welcome and the unbelievable leadership you are displaying in clean energy, among many other things. I do want to acknowledge and thank this delegation, particularly Congresswoman Underwood, whose district this is. And I had coffee with her this morning, and I said, what is the one priority that you have that I can be helpful? She said, Fermilab, Fermilab, Fermilab. Support what is happening here. So thank you for your incredible championing of this lab and of science. Senator Durbin, when I don't know if you remember this, but when I was first nominated as Secretary of Energy, and I got on the phone with Senator Durbin, and he said, I have 3 words for you: neutrinos, neutrinos, neutrinos. He has obviously been such a champion of, obviously, Fermilab and Argonne and the lab system overall. But that's not just true of these two over here. It's true of your entire delegation. Your delegation has been an amazing champion of science. This lab is the only physicist who is in the Senate and educates us all, even as we were on this tour today, climbing behind the equipment, saying, I developed those magnets. I mean, really, can any other state boast such intellect and ferocity? Chairman Rush is the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, is the chairman of all things energy that comes out, and he happens to have this hugely powerful position from this perch here in Illinois. So it is so great to be with you. And then Representative Kasten, who was an energy entrepreneur before coming to Congress and still brings that huge fierce notion of how we can make policy encourage deployment of clean energy technologies across the country. So I'm not just here to suck up to them all. I'm just telling you, you all should be feel so fortunate, right, that you have, go ahead, he says, that you have such a tremendous delegation. I do also want to thank Nigel Lockyer and the entire team that is here at this lab, an incredibly diverse team, as was pointed out, which is so exciting, diverse from all around the world and from all walks of life, how STEM is so important, science, technology, engineering, and math, to be able to build the next generation of technologies. The Department of Energy has 17 national labs, and I've had the privilege of visiting 16 of them now. I've got only one more to go. And the 17 labs are really the jewels of the science ecosystem inside of the United States, really the world. We are so fortunate in this country to have had government support of research and of science and of basic science, which is much of what is done here at Fermi. Because as you do research, whether it's on neutrinos or protons, you do not know, one does not know where that incredible research will lead. Because some of the research that has been done here has led to amazing discoveries that actual real people use all the time. For example, MRIs, the beams that are used to detect cancer. There's so much going on. The quantum piece of things, quantum computing, will be able to, in the future, help us to model not just climate change, but these extreme weather events that are hitting us with more and more rapidity, and so much more. There is so much happening here. The clean energy technologies coming out of all of our labs are critical to us combating the existential threat that Senator Durbin refers to, which is climate change. Whether it is next generation solar panels or next generation technologies for batteries for electric vehicles, or next generation materials that go into offshore wind turbines, or next generation storage of clean energy through hydrogen, etc. All of these technologies are being worked on right now at our national labs, and the investment that has been supported by this delegation and by this president is critical to make sure that United States stays at the forefront of competitiveness. So I applaud them, and I applaud Governor Pritzker as well, because that Climate and Equitable Jobs Act is really putting Illinois, when you compound what's happening at the federal level with what is happening at the state level, really at the front. The 100% commitment to clean energy, which parallels what President Obama wants to get to, 100% clean electricity. Thank you for your leadership in that. I was mentioning to him yesterday that I was at this Braidwood nuclear plant that was saved essentially by the work that he did in passing that CEJA, as they call it, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. And not only is it critical for the goals that you have of getting to 100% clean, because of course nuclear is zero carbon emitting baseload power, but it was so important to the people whose jobs were saved and the community who felt like they weren't sure what would happen to them. And they were so grateful to you, Governor, for that act and your leadership. That is exactly the kind of leadership that the president is exhibiting with the bipartisan infrastructure law and with the Build Back Better agenda. I just have to acknowledge what is specifically coming out of the bipartisan infrastructure law that will benefit you all here. So there is $16 billion in that law for upgrading, for example, the transmission grid. You've seen pictures of the grid falling over the Mississippi River after a hurricane, or the grid causing wildfires in many places, or the grid being impacted and power going down because of floods. We have a grid that was built in the 50s, and we need to have a grid that is built for 2021 and beyond. And so the investments will allow us to make that grid hard, to make that grid resilient, to make that grid resilient from cyber attacks as well. $21 billion in that bipartisan infrastructure law that everyone back here voted for demonstration projects, like the one I saw yesterday at the University of Illinois, which was a carbon capture and sequestration project attached to the plant there at the university. That kind of next generation technology is what the president envisions when he wants to invest in America and build back better. $6 billion on the federal level to keep the existing nuclear fleet online, so we don't take down zero carbon power. $7.5 billion for a national electric vehicle charging station investment, meaning $7.5 billion to see 500,000 charging stations, which will complement what the governor has in the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, so that Illinois, for those of you who want to purchase electric vehicles and you don't know where you're going to charge up, we want to make sure that, especially in areas where charging stations do not exist, that you have an option of charging your vehicle. And in fact, your specific allocation, you all will get $149 million from that for electric vehicle charging, which will nicely complement what you are already doing, right? You'll also get, specifically Illinois, $11 billion for upgrading your roads and bridges. That's a huge amount of money that you will get in Illinois. You'll get $4 billion for your public transportation system to make sure that it is clean and reliable. Bravo. You will get $100 million for broadband to make sure that high-speed internet is accessible to every pocket of this state. If you want to have a state that has an economy that is roaring, that means you have to provide access to that economy to every pocket. And that's what that $100 million will do. You will also get $1.7 billion for safe drinking water. And that means that families who are living in homes with lead service lines and children who are susceptible to lead poisoning as a result, schools that are susceptible to lead poisoning, you'll get $1.7 billion to replace those lines and make water safe. And for a state that has one of the very busiest airports in the country, if not the busiest at many times, you will also get $616 million for airport infrastructure. That you need as well, I can attest. So all of this is to say that between what is happening with your leadership on the state level and between what your congressional delegation is bringing home to Illinois, you are fortunate indeed, and you are fortunate as well because you have the investment in science and technology to ensure that Illinois will continue to lead. Don't tell anyone in Michigan I said that, but I am really excited for you and your leadership. And Paul Alvisados, so glad to see you here, University of Chicago being a very important partner in all of this propulsion of Illinois forward. Thank you all so much. Are we going to do questions? And I encourage anybody to come up here and feel free to.
And they'll give you a mic so you can hear me.
There you go.
You did speak to one of the questions I had, which is the dollars that would be coming to Illinois. Can you speak more generally just about your trip here to Illinois? I know you mentioned you're coming here to see part of the lab. So why Illinois, and what have you seen here that maybe has most impressed you?
Yeah, well, this lab obviously is so utterly impressive and mind-blowing. You know, we're going to see a huge investment here in this deep underground neutrino experiment. We saw a smaller version of that because there is a neutrino beam station here already. We went down 2 minutes in an elevator deep below and saw what is going on and what will happen here. It just means that the investment here in research and technology will cause the world to come here and use the tools and the equipment that are being developed here. It will make Illinois a leader. It'll make certainly this lab a leader. So this is, you know, mind-blowingly impressive. But on a smaller level, you know, one of the things that I think that I was very moved by was a community solar project in Kankakee. This community solar project is putting people to work, obviously. But what community solar does is, in a more rural area of the state, provide the ability for people who are lower income, struggling economically, to have access to solar power and to save money on their bills through a relationship with ComEd called Give Array. Those people in a community in Chicago can lower their bills and feel like they can participate in this clean energy future. And to me, creative use of land and connecting it to communities that might not otherwise have access to clean energy. Maybe they don't have a rooftop. Maybe they're living in a multi-family building. It is an example of a creative way to blend technology and policy that Illinois, and in a colder climate, that Illinois is leading an example on. Just as an aside on that, the Department of Energy has a goal of powering 5 million homes by community solar by 2025. So you are on your way to helping us get to that goal. So I love that as well. You know, it's hard to pick among great things. I love going to the University of Illinois and seeing their farm where they are doing biofuels, and especially a grass called miscanthus, which is going to be next generation biofuels. And at a moment when we are very excited about moving towards sustainable fuels, particularly sustainable aviation fuels, it also could provide a solution into the future. I mentioned the Braidwood nuclear facility already, so all of these stops have been remarkable.
Thank you. Governor, do you have time for? So when you hear about the money that's coming in, what is this going to allow Illinois to do with this federal money? I mean, a lot of money tossed out here.
Yeah, well, let me start with the fact that I wasn't kidding when I said we're shovel ready here in Illinois, because we've been planning with our infrastructure bill that we passed in 2019. And what this allows us to do is to not only use those federal dollars to accelerate what we've been planning, but also to extend that. So much of what we do when we're building, let's say, roads and bridges is often repairing what already exists. But these new federal dollars, kind of like the I-74 bridge that we opened a week ago or so, allow us to do big, bold, major projects that are predominantly federally funded and that are beneficial not only for the people of Illinois, but also for the many people who travel across Illinois who are from other states, including businesses. So we have a lot of plans for those dollars, and certainly there's a lot more that we will be able to do. I like the dollars coming into broadband extends our program that's $420 million by another $100+ million. So we'll be able to get every home and business all across the state of Illinois, giving them access to broadband, high-speed broadband, no matter where they are.
Just one off topic, and I know we got to go, and this is just about COVID. As you're well aware, hospitalizations are surging, all across the state, particularly up here in this region. Do you have any plans to institute any kind of further mitigations? And tied into that, if I can double up the question, Dr. Arwady saying yesterday that Chicago is looking at maybe requiring COVID vaccination proof for restaurants or other large gatherings. Is the state looking at further mitigations and perhaps any kind of vaccine passport?
Well, throughout this pandemic, I've said that local governments, county governments, should certainly look at stricter mitigations if they feel that in their area that is warranted. Let me say specifically about Winnebago County and Rockford. This morning I spoke with the mayor of Rockford, and our IDPH has been in regular contact with the hospitals and the local public health department to make sure that we're providing what they need. That means help with staffing, for example. They have access to our staffing contract at the state level, and then add to that monoclonal antibodies that we've been distributing across the state, but now specifically focused on Winnebago County, where this morning they declared a disaster in the county. Again, we're looking at everything that has been done, over the last 2 years, always. But what we're really focused on is making sure that people are following the masking requirements indoors. Thank you to all of you who are doing that here, and making sure that we're providing vaccines everywhere in the state. Please, if you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated and get your booster. It gives you multiple times the protection that even the first 2 shots did. So I want everybody to listen and go immediately to their pharmacy or their doctor if they can.